these men go crazy.
What's up, Jaybirds? It's everyone's favorite curly haired girl, Jaiyahna, and I'm back with another video. Now, in today's video, I will be hitting 8 topics of myths of a woman's body. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe, and hit that post notification, Jaybirds. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and with your help, I'm sure we will get there. You know what? Not just sure. I know we will get there. But Jaybirds, I don't want to waste your time. You came here to hear about these topics, so let's get into the video. Number 1, discharge. Just because you have a discharge does not mean you have a yeast infection. A yeast infection is when there's bacteria built up in your vagina, and I mean the bad bacteria, which causes your vagina to have a discharge. But it's not the normal discharge. It's typically a yellowish, clammy discharge. And there's other symptoms for it as well. But a natural discharge is when there's a clear or white substance that is not smelly coming out of your private parts. That is natural. And whether you have it heavier one day or lighter the next day, that is all based off of your hormones. And one thing about it, ladies, Jaybirds, my female Jaybirds, we can't control our hormones. So, again, a discharge is not the same thing as a yeast infection. Number 2, do not wash your vagina with soap. Your lady parts is its own cleaning area. It cleans itself. That is what it's made for. Well, one of the reasons it's made for. It self-cleans itself. This is why we have our periods, because it releases all the toxins out your body. So please, ladies, please do not use soap there at all. No regular soap, no smelly soap. That could throw off your pH. Now, if you want to, on the outer crevices, you can use soap, but again, do not use scented soap because that will throw off your pH. And from there, that'll lead you back to number 1, where you'll end up having typically a different discharge. It won't be clear or white, and it typically sometimes can be smelly. So please do not use soap in your lady parts. Also, using soap down there can cause you to get a BV. And if you don't know what a BV is, it's a bacterial vaginosis, and you don't want that. And what a bacterial vaginosis is, like I said, it leads back to one of the things. It is when the bad bacteria has built up, which is not as extreme as a yeast, because with the yeast, it's when the bad bacteria has built up, but there's other things to yeast. But with this, is just because your pH is thrown off. And you really don't want that, ladies. Number 3, if your smells, it does not mean you have an STD. It does not mean you have an STI. It does not mean that you're dirty, ladies. I just talked about throwing off your pH. That can also cause your area to have a distinct smell. So I just need guys to know this, particularly guys, because they like to clown and be like, oh, she didn't wash up, or she's burning because she's for the streets. That's not always the case. It could be because your pH thrown off, which brings me back to the subject of me saying, do not wash with soap there, you guys. Again, if your pH is thrown off, go see a doctor. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I promise you, it's more common than you think. Me, myself, I'm not gonna lie. I had my pH thrown off. And I was embarrassed at first, but I had to realize that is a natural thing that happens to women. Granted, your pH being thrown off is not something that's natural to your body, but it's natural in a sense that it happens more often than you think. So don't be embarrassed. If it happens to you, just go visit your local doctor, or you can go to one of those free clinics. It doesn't matter. Get it checked out. They'll give you some medicine to take and everything will be okay. So I inserted in 2 photos of how to maintain a healthy vaginal pH. Number 4, STIs. And if you don't know what STI is, it means a sexually transmitted infection, which is not the same thing as a STD, as in that is a sexually transmitted disease. But an STI, if you have those, does not mean you will have symptoms, you guys. I'm just throwing that out there. Just because you have it does not mean you have symptoms. You could go about your natural everyday business and never know you have one. And this is why I stress that everyone should get tested. Even if you've been with your partner, not saying that they're cheating. I don't want to ever insinuate that. But I always think that it's good whenever you go for your regular checkup to get tested. I think it's always a good thing. You should get tested for everything. And I mean everything. I think it's just a good thing for people to do. You don't have to listen to me, but that's my opinion. But you don't, like I said, you're not going to have symptoms of an STI. And you don't want to not know that you have something. And then you go sleep with someone else and pass it along. And the cycle continues. And this specifically isn't just for females. This is for men too as well. Everyone should go get tested. And if you don't know where or how, you can visit your local doctor, your local clinic. You can visit anywhere. So I suggest you go get tested. It's not a bad thing. I promise you, it's worth it. Number 5, pregnancy. This leads me to periods as well. I used to be, how do I put that? I used to have an incorrect way of thinking as well. I always thought that if I got my period, I'm not pregnant. But that is not the case. I have learned that you can actually get pregnant and have your period. Specifically because sperm can live in your body up to a week. So you could have the sperm in there. You could have intercourse right before you have your period. You could have your period. Mind you, the sperm is still living in your body. And then it could attach to the egg anytime after that period. Because, again, sperm can live in your body up to a week. So this is why I always stress that you should use protection or birth control, or sometimes the both. I'm not going to tell you to stay abstinent. Of course, that is what all parents want to tell their children. But we all know we're human. One day it's going to happen. Whether you're married, whether you're not. I'm not one to judge. But I always say that you should use protection or birth control. There's different ways of birth control. There's many different ways, not of birth control, but there's many different birth controls. You have the Nespolon, which I am about to get in next, which is the birth control that inserts in your arm. You can take the pill, you can get the double shot. There is numerous of other birth control options, ladies. And I believe that you should research it before you choose one. Don't just choose one because, oh, my friends are doing this, or I seen this on TV. Really do your research, ladies, because it's important to know anything, specifically anything that you're putting in your body. And again, like I said, use protection, get tested, and if not protection, birth control. But just know, birth control do not protect you from STIs. That can only protect you 99.9% from pregnancies, and that does not always mean you won't get pregnant. So again, use one or the other or both. And that's just my opinion. You can take it or you can leave it. Number 6, this is a big one, a super big one in the US, you guys. Tampons. Just because you use a tampon does not mean you lost your virginity, especially if you are a virgin. let me drop some knowledge on you real quick. The definition of virginity is not having sexual intercourse. Putting a tampon in your lady parts is not having sexual intercourse. And a lot of people misconstrued it because they think if you put a tampon in, it's just going to take it. And the reason why is because every female has a hymen. Well, I'm sorry, not every female. But 9 times out of 10, a female is born with a hymen. If you don't know what that is, it is a thin layer of tissue that runs across the opening of your lady parts. Now, people think because tampons sometimes it can tear, rip, or stretch your hymen. But that does not mean you're not a virgin. People think that, and this is why most parents tell their children you cannot use tampons until you had sexual intercourse and all that. And granted, I'm not going against parents. That's their decision of how they want to raise their children. But I just want to let you guys know, for the people who don't know, most parents don't know. And if you do know and that's your decision, you stick with it, then that's fine. That's your choice. I'm not trying to persuade you to choose any way, shape, or form to be different. I'm just trying to educate you. But yes, a tampon does not take your virginity away. Only having sexual intercourse can do that. Number 7, childbirth. A lot of people tend to be afraid of childbirth. And one of the particular reasons is because they think that when you push a baby out naturally, your lady parts will permanently be stretched like that. And that is not true. Your vagina is like a big rubber band. It stretches and it comes right back. Now, of course, it won't happen overnight, but typically it takes some days to do it. And over time, throughout the days, while it's healing, it is just contracting back. Now, if you had childbirth and you are ripped and had to be stitched up, 9 times out of 10, because of the rip, it will still go back, but it typically will go back smaller than what it was before you gave birth. Now, that does not mean it always will. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, that's not a perfect 100. That just means more times than not. But again, that's how our body was made. Our body was made to give birth. So it's made to stretch to great lengths and snap right back. So don't be afraid. It will go back. Don't listen to people who say your lady parts will be forever broken, because that's not true. Number 8, Jaybirds, we have made it to the last one. Woo! This leads me to number 8, breastfeeding. So before we get to the facts, I'm gonna state my opinion. Look at me, Jaybirds. And if you wanna unsubscribe after this, I honestly don't care. Because I think if you have a problem with a woman publicly breastfeeding their child, then there's absolutely something wrong with you and not that mother. If you were hungry, would you be mad? How would you feel if somebody told you can't go eat publicly? It is a mother's job to feed their child, whether they're breastfeeding or feeding through the bottle. It is the mother's job to feed the child. So if a mother wants to breastfeed their child in public, they're feeding their child. Let them do them. You're not that child's parent, and you're not their parent. And even if so, you're not that woman, and that is not your body. I don't care if you're another woman bashing her or another man. A woman can publicly breastfeed their child, and I agree with it.
And
By the way, I said what I said, and I meant what I said. But I still love you, Jaybirds. Now, on to the facts of breastfeeding. Typically, breastfeeding is told to be the most nutritious thing for a baby. And it is. Now, another misconception that sometimes women have is that if you cannot breastfeed, it makes you a bad mother. And I'm here to tell you that is incorrect. Just because you cannot breastfeed does not make you a bad mother. So do not feel bad about yourself. There's plenty of things women can and can't do in this world, and it does not mean your body's broken. Do not feel bad. It will still make you a good mother, as long as you treat that child with love, respect, and care. I'm here to tell you, if there are certain things you cannot do as a mother, do not beat yourself up. Do not feel bad. There are other options for you. And other options could be you can either put your child on formula, or if you're so gun-ho on making sure your child gets breastfed, there are other mothers in this world that sell breast milk. And I don't mean like black market breast milk. I mean legal ways on professional websites. There are mothers that sell their breast milk to other mothers who cannot produce. And again, I don't want you to feel bad about yourselves. It's a human thing. We're not perfect. And I don't want you to feel like because you're a mom, you have to be perfect, because you don't. You try the best you can and be the best you can. And that's what makes motherhood beautiful. Not trying to be perfect, but taking care of your child and taking it one day at a time. There will be trial and error. And if there is error, all you can do is pick up the pieces from where you are and keep pushing forward. But do not feel bad about yourselves for anything. And it does not have to be just breastfeeding. Anything when it comes to motherhood, or anything when it comes to a woman's body. Do not feel bad, because we all go through our things. Even me. I'm not perfect, and I never claim to be. So those were my 8 myths about a woman's body that people sometimes are confused about or misconstrued. But Jaybirds, that's the end of this video. Again, don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe, and hit that post notification, Jaybirds. I love you, and I'm out.